Think so? Okay, folks, welcome to the spring congregational meeting for Namakwa. I'm going to call this meeting to order now. First, Dana's going to offer us a chalice lighting, please. Dana, that mic is live.
Okay. So, thinking about our chalice and the light that we celebrate, the light that I am about to light cannot be lit without you. How are we all going to get up here and do this together? Well, we come together to combine our light and our spirits, do we not? To create this unique and beautiful community, which I am now honored to be a part of. And this is the light of our chalice. Could you go to the next slide, please? Back when we did a forum in early February, I took your responses about who are you, Namakwa Unitarian Universalist Church congregation, thank you, and what is the heart of this congregation? And I took all of those words and put them into a word cloud, and this is what came up. So as we go to light our chalice, let's just popcorn one at a, just say one of those words that really catches your eye as part of our chalice lighting, naming the heart of this congregation. What do you see? Justice, love, welcome. Okay, I'll repeat it so you can see if I heard you or not. So the last one I heard was welcome, open, peace, new. Say that again. Dignity, caring, warmth, home, values, fully, friendly. What was that? Open-minded, loving, belonging. Is this capturing the heart of our congregation? Okay. Could you go to the next slide, please? This slide is the responses of the last two questions in that forum. What is your North Star? What direction are you heading? What direction are we heading, Namakwa? Tell me. Acceptance. Community. Whoops, say it again. Loving. Appreciating. Appreciated. Acceptance. Fun. I heard some, what was that? Gutsy. Energy. Acceptance. Build. Yes. Others? Does that sound, what? Sanctuary. So my friends, as we begin our congregational meeting, let us remember that the work that we do together is this beloved community. And the spirit of this community is the light that you bring. And when we do the work of this congregation, we touch lives, including your own. May this, and when we touch lives, we change the world. Let us remember the heart and soul of who we are and where we're headed. So may this chalice flame we now kindle remind us of our ministry and our mission together. It's already lit. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Terry Sokolowski, as chair of LDC, can you affirm that we have met quorum? We do have quorum here. Thank you for counting, and thank you, everybody. We're going to first do a series of reports that are going to summarize some of the work of the past year, and then we're going to look to the future. We're going to elect new officers, adopt next year's budget, look at some of the issues that are going on at GA this year, as well as fine-tune and update our bylaws. We do have a full meeting, and there will be a number of votes as we go along. But initially, We're going to do some summary reports from, if we can go back. Okay, there we are. Thank you, Tam. The first one being Dana presenting the minister's report.
You have a particular place where we want. Is it all right if I come up here? Okay.
Well, can you use that mic up here?
I can use this mic.
Okay.
Thank you, Clay, for hooking up this mic. I didn't even know we had one. I think it works fabulously. Just responding to an email. So my friends, it's been an honor and a joy for me to be with you since November 1st of this year. So I've been here, I think this is my 7th month now. Time is flying, and it really hasn't been all that long either. So as I said, and how many of you got a chance to read my report? Do you review? Okay. Yeah, I figured it would be hard to get to it. So the reports are in your packets in the back. Anyhow, it is an honor and a joy for me to serve with you. We've had the usual ups and downs in the life of the congregation. Y'all are pretty tame, I just have to say. It's great. It's great. A few changes during my short time here so far have included starting community night with our collaborators, Kat Alexander and Clay Roper, for building community, and Janet Wright, our wonderful DRE, and switching our regular church-wide emails from threes to constant contact. And many thanks to Janet Gillette for making it happen. Good job, Janet. Thanks for putting up with me. And creating a weekly slideshow every Sunday morning to help us stay focused and bring a bit more beauty and joy into our services. And thanks to all of you who have sent me photos that I get to include and feature you. So as you may know, I attend many meetings, but I honestly, maybe I shouldn't admit this, I like meetings. and I love hanging out with you all. And I want to thank all of our 15 worship associates that we have. We are very blessed to have 15 worship associates that are fabulous. And I want to thank Kathy Hartman for helping me get acclimated to the church, especially around worship. And she's my co-chair, so yeah, thank you. And many thanks to Claire and all the worship associates for creating really beautiful worship services. And we've revived the membership committee, the membership team. Many of them are here. I guess we call it ministry. I'm hearing Duck in my head. Ministry, membership ministry. So that membership is going really, really well. I mean, that ministry is going really, really well. And I thank you for all of your hard work. The social justice ministry is also up and running again, first under the leadership of Tam Paquette. So thank you, Tam, for all of your hard work. And now under the leadership of Sue Matthews. Sue, thank you for all of your hard work. Things are cooking and bubbling and boiling. You'll be hearing more about that in the coming times. So I also attend board meetings and committee on shared ministry and LDC meetings and pastoral care meetings and lots of hanging out with you all. So I thank you for all of your time, and I especially thank you for the excellent leaders that are running your church. They're doing a fabulous job. Our interim ministry worked together. In addition to what we saw in those stars, we've reviewed our history, clarified the organizational structure, building connections and relationships with other organizations. These are just getting started and will continue and grow. And we're renewing relationships with the UUA in every way that we can. So I will continue doing this work the best that I can. And I just want to end by thanking all of our staff members for doing a fantastic job keeping this church rolling along with all of our lay leaders. Dr. Claire Hamilmore, who did another fabulous service today. We're going to miss him, are we not? I hope you are all able to be there on the 4th, and if you aren't, please send him cards, or you can give them to me and I'll give them to him, whatever. We want to just shower him with love as we send him on his way. Ryan, we are blessed to have Ryan Marvel with us. Incredible music again today. And Janet, thank you for your lighthearted and patient and dedication for doing your job and doing it really well. She's retiring, so we're finding a new person, but she's hanging in there with us until we do. And Tam Paquette, thank you for our finances and everything that you do for that. And she put a whole church inventory together, which is really incredible, in addition to everything else. Thank you, Tam, for all that you do to help us out. And Christine Abby, keeps our place clean. Do you ever notice? I know, it's like sound. When the sound is great, you never notice. But, so if you ever see Christine, thank her. And a special thanks to Sally and to Doug Stewart and Kathy Hartman, who have gone way above and beyond in helping me become your minister and know a little bit about what I'm doing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dana. Last July 1st, 2022, this church was standing at a precipice. There was a lot going on. We were coming out of a world-changing pandemic that left us, as well as everybody around us, reeling. Our beloved minister retired. She left, and we didn't have a replacement on July 1st. Thank God for Claire. Or thank whoever's up there for calling. If you believe somebody's up there. Otherwise, just thank Claire. We had just adopted our first ever budget with a known deficit. In fact, we'd never had a deficit known or unknown before, and this was a sizable one. What's more, we were just starting to look at and come out of a major conflict with an important neighboring congregation. Big challenges, and we were without a minister. The leaders had a lot on their plate. So firstly, I want to thank the Board of Trustees for their hard work this past year. We've had all kinds of long, late meetings, and we have come through. So please, as I call your names, just stand in place. Hold everybody, please hold your applause till we're done. But I want to recognize the Board of Trustees. Glenn Peace is Vice President. He cannot be here right now. His grandmother is quite ill. But Alan Van Nest, our treasurer, thank you. Sharon Noor, our secretary. Pete Buckmeyer, he's in the back. Thank you. Our building manager, tremendous amount of work. Leonard Sokolowski, there he is over there. Again, Leonard, among everything else, he headed up the pledge drive this year. Norma Fox. Norma, you'll hear from a little later. She, along with Sharon, did hours and hours revising our bylaws. So please, everybody, please thank these hardworking board members. And like Dana, I want to thank Doug Stewart and Cherry Sokolowski and Kathy Hartman for going above and beyond whatever their official roles would be. They were invaluable in this past year. But we had some resources going into this tough year, and I counted heavily on them. And I want to recognize these folks and ask them to stand as well for a moment. And the rest of you hold your applause till we're done with everybody. Claire Hammer, Claire had to leave. Ministerial intern extraordinaire, wonderful. Janan Wright, Janan, our RE director, she's dedicated not just to our children, but to the entire congregation, especially through this past pandemic. Ryan Marvel had to leave, but Ryan, our music director, enchants our inner being with his music. Janet Gillette, please Janet, stand up there. Janet's is our communications guru, ready to retire, but we're not letting her till we find somebody really good. Tam Paquette, Tap's up there doing wearing one of her many hats around here, but she is our bookkeeper, and believe me, she looks at every nickel coming and going. And again, I want to mention Christine Abbey, who works in the background and keeps our building so clean. So thank you all, staff, for everything you've done for us. Those aren't our only resources. Our strong and involved members, every one of you and the ones that are not here today, this is how we will continue to work our way through this pandemic, through this ministerial transition, and into the future. Every one of you, thank you. We are definitely rebuilding, and unfortunately, mostly because of the pandemic, we have to rebuild everything. I thought, that when we got back in this building, after Zooming extensively for a couple of years, things would go back pretty quickly to normal. I was so naive. This is not a quick process. And this is not a one-year process. Darn it. I was really hoping by now we would be back up with our members are booming and our programs bursting. We're not there yet, folks. We still have a lot more work to do. In fact, over the pandemic, our membership dropped pretty significantly. We were at about 136, and when we did a recent count that really looked critically at who all were still members and who were not, we had dropped to about 111. That's 25 people. Now, we've picked up a few more. We had 6 or 8 join us this past year, so that trend is back up. So we're making progress. We have activities. We have new activities. Dana mentioned community night. Totally different than anything we had before. Lots of fun for everybody. Kids, seniors, everybody in between. There's thoughtful conversation, and there's community building together. We focused on several important areas. We needed a minister, and thankfully, it took an extra 6 months, but we did find a wonderful minister to help us through this interim process. We can't call her an interim minister because of some complexities about how we're hoping that maybe we can keep on with her after this interim period. So the board elected to hire Dana as a contract minister doing interim work. Now, and that's a bit of a name play, but we need to do it because the UUA is indeed a large bureaucracy, and they have parameters that we have to work within. So she was hired on a contract basis, but the reason we didn't want to call her an interim per se is interims can never become settled ministers. And we are leaving open on both our part and Dana on her part the possibility that as we get further into this interim process, If we find that this is a match that we all want to continue, we are open to considering hiring Dana. So to that end, we are not going out on a national search this next year for a new minister. As I said, the UUA is quite a structured bureaucracy, and there is a really formal documented process on this so-called contract to call. It's a 2-year process. The board's been reading the literature on it. It's a manual, step by step. It takes a full 2 years to do that. And because we were started out with Dana 6 months behind, the board has made the decision, and Dana has agreed, to stay on a contract basis for a 3rd year, really a 2.5 year. This will give us the opportunity not only to fully complete our work as a congregation on this interim period, which is an assessment and planning time for us, but also to further develop our relationships. And I personally am really glad to see that. So we're not going to look for a new minister this year. Next summer is probably when we'll make the decision about just how we're going to go forward. But we're keeping our options open. We think that in this time of crisis, we need to be flexible and responsive, and that's what we are trying to be. So she mentioned some of the things she's done. She started us in our reflective process of who we are, what we value, where we came from, and what do we want to do in the future. Meanwhile, she's helped us organize ourselves administratively. We have better technology, more regular communications, and we are moving forward with all of that. Dana has become our champion, and we want to see this process all the way through. That deficit that we voted on and accepted last year will be happening this year. And in a little bit, Alan will come up and tell you where we are right now. But it was also a challenge for next year's budget. But first, we have to finish this year. So please, we will be making an effort very soon to send out notices to everybody. Make sure you've fulfilled your pledge commitment. We need every single dollar, folks. So I tend to lose track. So I'm really grateful that they're going to be telling me where we are and whether I'm still in arrears. So if you have not made your full pledge commitment for this year, rest assured, please come through with that. Support our auction on June 24th. Support it in 2 ways, 3 ways. Support it first by making donations. What have you to offer to people in our congregation? What skills do you have? Pete Buckmeyer's up here every week giving you ideas. Clay and Kat are back there working really hard to have a fun time for us. So please support it by making donations, not just 1, but 2 or even 3 if you can. Come, absolutely come and spend money at the auction. And even more so, Clay and Kat are looking for help. So if you're looking for some jobs to do, please join the committee. But that auction is really important to us. It will help keep our deficit down to something manageable. We do have financial reserves, by the way, so we're not sweating worried, but we don't want to spend them on basic operating costs. So as I said, next year's budget is tight again. You'll again hear that in detail a little bit later in this meeting. But I have to tell you that when the board looked at that budget initially, there was a $50,000 deficit to do everything we wanted to do at the level we'd been doing it. That was just not sustainable. So we came up with some ideas about how to deal with that. Again, there's going to be some special fundraisers, another special appeal. But one major point we came up and working in concert with Dana on this, is I'm sorry to tell you that next year's budget has Dana, our minister, dropping from full-time to an 80% minister. Like most small nonprofits and churches, most of our budget is in staff. And so we could not cut that $50,000 without making something substantive. And the decision was that Dana, and she can explain why it makes sense to her as well as to us. It feels like we're going back, and because we made such a big deal out of having a full-time minister. But folks, we just can't afford a full-time minister this year. We want to work back to that. That's our goal. But our budget will show a minister at 80% full-time. The other issue that we are still considering that hangs over this church is our conflict with Foothills. While officially we've come to a resolution to respect and honor each other, we have just begun to start working together because that's what the ultimate resolution will require. The Foothills Madrigal Singers that sang here a few weeks ago was the first step in that process. So thank you back there, Renee. Look for this more continuing next year. We are not done with this work. We're done with the fighting, but we're not done with the healing. So we are on an upward path, but it's a steep path, and it will take the work of all of us. So I want to thank you all for being here today and for helping every day. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call Alan Van Nest up now. Alan's going to talk about our current financial situation.
I had a very important oversight that I need to just mention. I forgot Janet in my thank you. She's in my notes, but I just right over. So I apologize very much. You're so honored and delighted to be working with Janet. I am, and you guys are so lucky. She blesses this congregation in a multitude of ways. So, and she's great with my kids.
So as Alan joins us, I just want to thank him publicly again, and from my deepest heart, he has put hours and hours into this work this year. Our finances are complicated. The budget's not huge, but it's big enough to make a difference. And Alan has really risen to that challenge. So the deficit is not Alan's fault. Remember, y'all agreed to it last year, so here's where we are.
I'm going out the back. And as Cherry told me this morning when I came, oh, you've got more gray hairs right now than when you started. So, okay, so, but yeah, I can't do two of these things at once. And so what we have is, and I gotta apologize, no, that doesn't do it either, is the statement, if you look at the statement of financial position.
So they're actually in the slides. You can do it that way, but the slides have them blown up a little bit more. You'll have to forward to them though. Sorry. Keep going. There you go. Awesome.
Okay, so I gotta apologize. I gave the wrong one to Dana. Because unfortunately, they all kind of have the same name, but different dates. And usually the date gets hidden. So this one only goes up to March, and the one I would like to look is goes to April. Nah, I looked.
I can only go with what you said. Okay.
So, but, nope. So nope, back.
Go back?
Yeah. They kind of show, oops, up one. Okay. Assets are steady.
Is that right?
Hey, that's good.
This one?
Yeah.
You just tell me when you want me to go forward.
Okay, look down the total equity. We started off with, boy, where'd it go? Nope, back.
Back? Okay.
Yeah.
Back again?
Nope, right there.
Okay.
And we start off with.
And Tim, if you're not already, be sure and screen share so that people on Zoom can see it. Thank you.
We start off with 213,000. And March, we were at 167,000. And it's of course gone down a little bit since then. Go down the slide. No. Yeah. Hey, we got a mic here, isn't that working?
Well, not when you turn your head. So go ahead and hold the mic up.
Okay.
So you can turn your head and look at the same back there. Thank you.
No, that's back to the budget. No, the other way.
Yeah, go backwards.
Yeah. Okay. Can we go down further on the slide?
That's just the slide. It's the slide. It's not actually a spreadsheet. You want me to get you your spreadsheet?
Yeah.
That's probably the.
Hey. I can say the same thing about technology that has been said before, but the tone would be different.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah. No, that's not it.
Is that good?
Nope.
No.
It should be statement of financial position.
What's the slide called?
No.
Well, you might have gotten that already, but I also included a slide, just in case we needed it, of the link that, of what you sent me to put in the packet. There you go. See if the proposed budget, you know what the proposed budget is.
No, I don't want that.
That's for later when we're talking about the budget for next year. And so, everybody, I think that's all you have. That's it, Ellen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it.
So I think you can go back to the slideshow and that'll make it bigger, because that's the first slide that you sent me.
Okay. And then we have savings is third from the bottom there is. Oh, sorry. Savings is steady at 14,000. We haven't touched that. And so that brings our current assets are now down on the last column, bottom row is 26,700. So that's about where we stand. There's the money we have in checking, savings, except for the money we have in our endowment from Linda Bell, which stands at about 95,000. It's in stock, so it changes from day to day. And that one we haven't touched. So when, we still got money in our pockets, but it'd be nice if we had more. Okay, now if we can go to the budget versus actuals. There we go. That's it. And the expenditures go up and down. Right now, in May, we spent $7,000 and got $8,600 in revenue. For the year, it's $148. Pledges total about $131,000. I could have sworn we budgeted $145. And I think pretty much all of our expenses are kind of in line. Because we voted for a deficit budget and we're going to get one. If you go to the, I think the next slide. And the one after that. Yeah. So right now, we have a $33,000 deficit. We budgeted for $28,000. So we got one more month on this fiscal year. Actually, a month and a half. That's only half of May there. And so I hope there will be a flood of people coming in with their pledges. And so we should end up someplace close to where we budgeted last year. And next portion, we'll see what next year's budget shows. But unless somebody has some questions. Okay. Right.
Thank you, Alan, for part one of your presentation. Next, I'd like to call on Doug Stewart. Doug's zooming in from Utah, and I think our technology whizzes are going to be able to show either Doug or his slide. And I heard Doug earlier, so I know he's out there.
Yeah, let's see. Can you hear me in the sanctuary?
Sounds good.
Okay. Hey, good deal. Marvelous technology. Yeah, you can show, I've got 2 slides on the Committee on Shared Ministry. And if you can show those and share them in Zoom, because I'm told people prefer to look at slides rather than me. No accounting for taste. So the Committee on Shared Ministries is responsible for the congregation's programs and day-to-day operations, while the board looks at our finances and personnel and strategy, policies, that sort of thing, longer range. The Committee on Shared Ministries is the day-to-day operations. And in particular, we provide the COSM itself, the Committee on Shared Ministries, provides the resources and coordination among the various ministries. And that's our code, as you all probably know, it for our committees. So COSM itself has Donna Drake, Tom Mitchell, Fred Scheckinger, and myself as members. And so I wonder if we can give them all a hand for having served on COSM. Thanks to them. Each of them serves as a liaison to 2 or 3 ministries, and sort of just it acts as our conduit of communication. So here, next slide, are our ministries. So we have 9 ministries. There's adult enrichment that I also wear the hat on, and we make sure that we have the signups on the webpage. Dana presented a UU history class. We had a worship associate training, and we've got several classes that are at or nearing critical mass, enough people to have for fall. So we're looking forward to having more courses in the fall. Building operations is led by Jana, and this is making sure that we have the custodial supplies, paper towels, and also that some decorating occurs. Jana also made sure that we had blinds in the social hall so that we can darken that room when we're Zooming so it doesn't reflect off the TV. So things like that. Communications is led by our Janet Gillette, and so this is the weekly email blasts, the monthly newsletter, and we do have a TV this year that we are using for mini Zoom meetings in the social hall or in Dana's office. Community building is on fire with Caitlin and Clay Roper, and all sorts of good things happening there. Open mic, community night, local lunch Sundays, the Art Nook, coffee after the services with Sherry Sokolowski's help, social sisterhood, and on and on. So, and then they're also organizing the upcoming auction. So another shout out to the auction coming up. That'll be a lot of fun. Membership has beginning to know as Alice Kane started out this church year and handed off to Linda Bell and Terry Burke. And we have started getting to know you get to know each other's one Sunday a month after the service. And we also have a exploring membership class that we put together. So membership is off and running. We have, I think the number is 8 new members so far this year. And I think there's a couple more people that are have signed or just about to sign the membership book. Music has been wonderful, part of our Sunday services. Marion Cox serves as chair and working with our director of our music director, Ryan, and providing and making sure that we have music for each Sunday, and looking out into the summer when Ryan has the summer off, that we have musical resources for over the summer. Pastoral care, Sally Henry has another hat that she wears, thanks to her, and that gives physical and emotional support to those in the congregation or friends of the congregation that have needs. So that includes just making contact and making sure people are healing, or feeling, and sending cards, organizing meals, rides, helping out with homework or yard work, that sort of thing. Social justice, Tam Piquette handed off to Susan Matthews, and has done many activities this year. Oh, I've got one missing, but we'll get there. We have they held a park service, a Pride in the Park service, made sure that our welcoming congregation status, which is a designation that we have with the UUA and some other UU churches, that we maintain that status of being a welcoming congregation to LGBTQ plus our designation. We hosted a vision summit for Together Colorado, which is a interfaith social justice organization. Put up and decorated the giving tree for the holiday season. Social justice is organizing it into teams of interest groups. And so if you've got an interest that you'd like to buddy up with somebody on, let social justice know, and we can get you connected with somebody who's also interested in immigration or healthcare or homeless here in Loveland. The one I forgot to list here is religious education. And yeah, every Sunday, Janin and Megan ensure that we have nursery care available, elementary classes available, and this year we have offered several youth group meetings for mid-high and senior high youth group. And finally, worship, inspirational Sunday services every week of the year. And Kathy Hartman and working with Reverend Dana lead our worship services. And again, wonderful. The interaction with Claire has just been wonderful. And we're so thankful for having had this experience with him. And I think, yeah. And we added to the worship team, we added 7 new worship associates this year. So that was some of the accomplishments that COSM had. Much thanks to the chairs and to the members and to everybody who's helped out. So another round of applause, please, to the chairs and the members of the COSM ministries. And that's my report out. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Next, I would like to call up Terry Sokolowski, please, Chair of the Leadership Development Committee.
Thanks, Sally. And Kathy, would you come up, please? So our report is going to be short, looking at the time, in inverse proportion to our importance, of course. Anyway, Kathy Hartman and Susan Moody and I are the Leadership Development Committee. Our main task is recruiting wonderful new leaders for the congregation. So we'll be getting to that soon. So in the process, we held a recruitment supper this year, and I'm happy to announce that several people who came to that supper are now among the nominees that you'll be voting on. So that's our main task, is recruiting leaders who will do a great job for you. But another task we have that is pleasant is thanking those that are going off leadership groups this year, and Susan Moody will handle that.
I hope I don't trip again. Anyway, we have had really great help from all people in the community, and everyone's really easy to work with. I think everyone understands that in this congregation. We are a community. We each pitch in and we all help. And then there comes a time after leaders have done their part for several years when it's time to step down. And we have 3 people who are doing that this year. On the board, and before I continue, when I do call your name, if you'd come up, I have something to give you. The first person is Leonard Sokolowski, who is Cherry's better half, or other half, I would say. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's not a rock.
No. The other person on the Board of Trustees is Glenn Peace, who is not here due to the illness, the sickness of his grandmother, and we hope that she does well and gets better. The last person I'd like to thank is on the Committee for Shared Ministries, and it's Fred Schreckinger, and he has worked long and hard. He's also been a worship associate, and I've been, served with him, and we want to thank him for all the work he's done. Thank you, Fred. And that's the, everybody else is staying on for another year, so thank you.
Thank you, and we'll turn it back over to Sally.
Just for a minute, though. You can actually stay up here. We are now going to go into a number of decisions that y'all are going to have to be made. So I don't know if we can get the agenda slide back, but the decisions are going to be made first around the election of new leadership for next year. Then we will have decisions to be made on some bylaws revisions, then some activity at the UUA, and then finally next year's budget. So the way this is going to work, various people have been leading these various efforts. I'm going to call upon them to come up here in just a minute, present their findings to you. But then as president, I have to be the one that actually calls for the vote. So first we're going to have a presentation. Cherry's going to come right back up here with the leadership slate. So she will talk to you, run you through that, and then I will call for a vote, including a vote on those of you who are on Zoom. So everybody stay awake here. Okay, Cherry.
Okay, Tam, I think you'll find a slide with the slate of nominees.
Yeah, you were just there. You were just there.
We were?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, very good. Very good.
And the one before it, too.
Pardon?
The slide before it. There you go.
Okay, good, good. So I'm, the plan is to vote on the entire slate. And I'm just going to read them, and then as Sally said, she will call for the vote. So the nominees for the next year, 23-24, are the following. For the Board of Trustees, Rebecca Williamson and John Stegner. John will be serving a one-year term to finish Glenn Pease's current term. And then hopefully he'll want to go at it again. For the Committee on Shared Ministry, we're nominating Julie Pass, Jonna Drake for her second term, and Tom Mitchell for his second term. And you'll notice in your packet there's bios of all of the new people being nominated who aren't already on those committees and boards. For Leadership Development Committee, we're nominating Bonnie Stegner, Susan Moody for her second term, and myself for a second term. And then in order to become board officers, they have to be on the board, but we'll be voting on these simultaneously. So we're nominating, and I'm gonna skip one first. We're nominating Rebecca Williamson for vice president, Sharon Knorr as secretary, and Alan Van Nest for treasurer. And Sharon and Alan are both signing up for their second year. We're also nominating Sally Henry for president, and I just want to really give some kudos to Sally for being willing to do this big job again. So I want to have some special applause right now just for Sally. Okay, that is your slate of nominees, and I will hand it back over to Sally.
Okay. Any questions for Cherry before she goes? Any discussion before I call the vote? Hearing none, I ask all of those of you in favor of the slate as presented to please signify by saying aye. Aye. And what happened on Zoom? We're waiting. Okay, waiting on Zoom. All ayes. Okay, I haven't called for any nays yet, so if you're going to nay, all right. All those who are opposed to the slate as a whole, please signify by saying nay. And assuming none pops up on Zoom, the slate stands approved as presented. Congratulations to all of you. And thank you all. Thank you. We'll have a fun year. It's just going to be a lot of work. Okay, the next item. Norma Fox and Sharon Knorr have worked very hard going through our bylaws. Our bylaws have not been updated in maybe 5 or 6 years. Our beloved Nancy Kane was the last one who really tackled them. So they have been through this item by item, line by line, and they want to now present their findings to you. So Norma's going to be the lead presenter in this. And use the mic right down here. That's okay.
Okay, you know, I want to start off by giving Sally more kudos because, like Doug said, she wears many, many hats. But not only, most women, maybe a lot of women, have a lot of shoes. Sally has a whole lot of NMAQA hats, so I just would like to add my thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, as Sally has said, the NMAQA board is required to review the bylaws periodically. And our bylaws are a living document which evolve over time. So the recommendations that we're presenting in this version are not the end of the story. Future reviews will continue to refine the bylaws. Today, we'll vote on whether to adopt our recommendations. And the NUUC bylaws are the property of the NMAQA congregation. And in accordance with our democratic process, revisions are subject to the approval of the membership, not Sharon and I, not the board. We coordinated with and received input from the leadership groups, the board, COSM, LDC, the membership ministry, right? And our minister. We made several changes in terminology, reworded items, and rearranged some elements. And links to the revised bylaws and a summary of changes have been publicized through announcements and the newsletter. Also, we have a handout, which I see many of you are looking at here, that we provided today. So this slide gives the things that we think of are the really major changes. The first is in the definition of membership is the requirement for members to make a commitment of an annual pledge. There's more verbiage in the handout that you see, but I'd like to point out that an annual pledge is any amount, there is no minimum. Also, if that is still a bridge too far for some people with financial issues, then they can get a waiver. If a member does not request a waiver and chooses not to give a pledge, they will, the new bylaw recommendation is that they will be reverted to a friend. That doesn't mean if you don't make a pledge, you're not welcome here. That means if you don't want to make what we have determined to be the commitment to the congregation, you're still welcome here, but as a friend. Secondly, there is in the current bylaws a clause that if new members have to be a member for 60 days before they can vote in a congregational meeting. And this was reviewed and discussed at length, especially in the board, and determined that we want the new members to feel welcome and a part of the congregation, but we don't want to be too lax on things. So in this spirit, we want to make it possible to offer an opportunity for newer members to have a voice and vote at a congregational meeting. But it would be on a case-by-case or a meeting-by-meeting basis, and it would be with approval of 3/4 of the members in attendance. And the third part was a membership requirement of 1 year to serve on the board of trustees. The current bylaws already have a membership requirement for COSM and LDC of 1 year. So this is just kind of closing that gap. And so, and I will say that Sally will call the vote, but this is a vote up or down on the entire bylaws document. So.
Thank you, Norma. Don't leave. Questions or comments for Norma or Sharon before we call the vote? Vicki?
People who are inquiring about joining ever ask about the pledging and whether that ever comes up, and if there's discussion, what kind of sense or kind of feeling you get from those people. I'm thinking about, the meetings that you're having, exploring membership.
Exactly, that's the place. Dana, you can talk about exploring membership comments.
Hello? It does come up. And it usually comes up like, how much can we pledge? Can we pledge? We really want to help. We want to do our part. And this is true of every congregation, not just this congregation, because, 7 months of experience is not that much here. Let's be honest. And we've had one exploring membership class. But we're all wanting to look out for each other, especially for folks coming in the door that we're worried that they might not be able to pledge. And that's very kind that you feel that way and that you want to look out for folks that way. But the experience is actually the opposite of that. Like, we want to do our part. If we're going to be a member, we want to do our part. We're going to do what we can. So. And very rarely, when I was in Colorado Springs, I did offer a few people waivers. They didn't ask me, but I knew that they were struggling financially. So I said, you might consider this. And so for a couple of years, we did a few waivers, but it was quiet. Very few people knew that that was the way it was, and it was a way that we could help out. So does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah.
UUA dues we have to pay. So technically, we need members to pledge, because they'll be billed for whether they pledge or not. So it's better if you can pledge, or if it's needed a waiver, and then someone else does.
Yeah, just for the ones on Zoom, Fran pointed out that the UUA does We do report our membership to UUA, and our dues are based on that, but I think that we are in the position now where we just pay what do you?
Yeah, it's no longer based on your membership. It used to be based on that, but they changed it a few years ago. However, it does cost a significant amount of money just to walk in our door. I would say like 10 years ago, I did some analysis with some folks at the UUA, and we figured every time you walk in the door, it costs $37 just to come on Sunday morning for each person. Okay, so we don't charge $37 at the door, and that was 10 years ago, right? So, so yes, it's not an easy. I hope that helps answer your question. Is that, you know, taking a sense of not consumer mentality, but a sense of stewardship and ownership of taking care of it is where basically every person who becomes a member wants to be, and they want to be, they want to feel a part of things and help when they can.
Vicki?
So, yeah, when I was moving out membership, I thought I understood that it was then going to be based on our budget. Is that true, or is
Yes.
that not true?
Yes, that's true. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to comment, though, that this is not an issue that Dana brought to us, and that's all of a sudden why we're doing this. We have discussed this with Laurel for several years now. We just never could make a decision, partly because we were concerned about those folks who had income challenges. So what Dana helped us do, and one of the ways she's been so valuable, is she just helped us work through that process and made a decision to present to you. So I want to thank her for her guidance in doing this, but it did not originate with her. We've been talking about it for a while. Many congregations do have a similar requirement. Do I have any other questions? Steve?
Yeah, comment and a question. So I support and appreciate the work
Thank you.
you presented here. And yeah, so I support this 100% wholeheartedly. And I don't want to stir up a hornet's nest, of course. I hope that everybody else will support it, but a parliamentary question that this is a motion to, amend the bylaws. I think it is amendable, so it will be an up and down vote, but I believe if anybody wants to be so brave to go against what I think and make an amendment to anything that's proposed, I think they're allowed to do that parliamentarily. Doug is our expert in this area, and maybe Dana too, but I just want to make people want to be clear of whether we're free to do that or not when this kind of thing comes up in the future.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I'm ready to call the vote. All those in favor of revising or amending our bylaws as presented here today in totality, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Waiting for him to come through on Zoom. Okay, they're all ayes. So anybody opposed? Thank you. The measure passes unanimously. Good work, girl. Good work.
Thank you,
both
Sharon.
Of you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, the next vote, there are a couple of votes coming up at General Assembly, which will be in Pittsburgh next month. We do have 2 delegates plus Dana going as a delegate there. If anybody else is interested in attending GA as a delegate, please let us know. We can, okay, yeah. We do have an option for a 3rd person. In addition, and Sharon Knorr is going to be Zooming GA, and Tam Paquette is going to be going to GA.
And I'm hosting GA here.
So we will have access to this. But two big items on the agenda at GA that we need to vote on to give guidance to our delegates, because they will be asked to vote on our behalf on this. So Dana's going to present them. The two items are, there's a new UUA president up for election, plus our sacred principles are evolving into values. Dana will present those options. Then we will take a consensus vote among our folks to give guidance to Sharon, Dana, and Tam when they actually do their voting at GA.
And could I just borrow somebody's packet? That would probably be easier. Thank you. Thanks. So let's talk about the shared values first. So if you want to turn to that page in your packet, it says proposed changes, Article 2. So the UUA is required to review their bylaws, just like we are. And part of reviewing it, the bylaws every 10 years, is reviewing Article 2. Now, we know Article 2 as our 7 principles, and our 6 sources. They have not been changed since 1985. I know, which is starting to get a little in stone. And the reason we have this review in place is because we call ourselves a living tradition. If you look at the hymnal, the gray hymnal, it says the singing the living tradition. The living tradition is that, you know, we acknowledge that the truth is always evolving based on the context of what the world is that we are living in, which is always changing. And so as we look at our 7 principles, you know, what might need to change? This comes up all the time. And over the past 10 years or so, there are a few things that have really been in conversation. One, in our 7 principles, there is not anything that really speaks about love. And yet, what do most congregations say on Sunday morning? Love is the spirit of this church. Okay, most congregations that I know use that, some version of that, in case you didn't know that. So that's not there, but we're the love people. We're the side with love folks, you know? It's like, wait, something's missing here. Okay, another piece that's missing is the fact that we talk about ourselves as a covenantal people. Now, the 7 principles starts out as we, the Unitarian Universalist congregations, covenant to affirm and promote, and then it lists the 7 principles. But the only time you find the word covenant is in that short little preamble. So the changes here really bring covenant to the center of every one of these statements, okay? The other piece that was really felt like it was missing is a focus on anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multicultural work. And that really needed to be central focus of our 7 principles or of our Article 2 statement. Some of you may have known about the 8th Principle Project. Any of you hear about the 8th Principle Project? So for a number of years, there was a move to add a principle. Let's add the 8th principle about anti-racism. So instead, that has been integrated in to the proposed changes, okay? So let's see. So all of these are now incorporated. Love, if you see this diagram, you see love at the center. Now, I have to admit my own personal bias. I like the number 7, and I like having 7 principles. So for me, I'm counting love as 7 and central. Okay, but that's just me. but it really illustrates how that it is central. And you'll notice love being addressed in the preamble under values and covenant. I'm not going to take time to read all this to you. So it's in there now, which is great. Covenant is also in there. Like I mentioned, it is highlighted in the description of each one of these. You'll notice that I kind of grayed that out a little bit because I wanted you to, because one of the complaints, which was something I felt too, is that it's too long. Oh my gosh, it's so long. But really it's one word for each thing. But really it's one sentence for each thing. But really then it has a whole paragraph. So in that one word is summarized the whole paragraph in each of these things. So yeah, so I've mentioned also just now, I didn't realize it, but I covered all the criticisms that I wrote down, that we miss the 7 principles. We like principles, we like 7 rather than 6 shared values. That just like, what? Seems a little odd. Love is in the preamble and not in the statements. Some people brought that up, that they would like to see it in the statements instead of just the preamble. And it's too long. So those were the majority of the complaints that when we've talked about it in our various groups and in our forum. But any other comments or thoughts or anything anybody wants to share? Brian. Oh, and could somebody take this microphone back to him? I'm sorry I didn't think about that sooner. Thank you, Cherry. Brian, yeah.
I think it's on.
It's on. Yeah.
On the interdependence, they have, we covenant to cherish earth and all beings. And I question, what is beings? Does that mean humans, mammals, all plants and animals, bacteria, viruses? What are beings?
We covenant to cherish the earth and all beings. Let's see, if we got rid of the bees, that could be a problem. If we got rid of some bacteria, and what do we not covenant? What do we want to leave out of that list that you just gave me?
I don't know.
Yeah, so it's a good question, Brian, but that actually was brought up years ago, and I was proposed as a change from all people to all beings, to better respect all of the earth. Go, Mickey.
Is it still on?
Yeah, same subject. Brian and I were talking about this before. So how do we cherish something that we eat?
Oh, well, that's
seriously.
Excellent question. So that's, yeah. Would you not cherish it? That's of course why we give thanks for the food that we eat, because it's becoming a part of who you are.
It's a little contradictory.
Of all the things to cherish,
yeah, well, it's a little contradictory though, in my mind.
Maybe in your mind.
And I don't know if this came up. I didn't get to any of the national discussions. I wish I would have now, but it just doesn't make any sense to me, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I'm just reflecting on why Native American practices and other indigenous practices really honor an animal when they've killed it to eat it.
Harvest.
So,
she said exactly right.
All right.
Yeah. But it's a great question. We can have an awesome theological conversation about this.
Okay.
And we're running late.
I'm Fran. I just want to make a comment. I've been a UU for over 50 years, and it's only recently that I've heard love, 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 love 37 times in a different church from this one. I would like to see liberal religion instead of love, and then love could be part of that liberal religion. I would just draw it differently. So that's just my comment.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good. And the UUA, they're still taking amendments if anyone has an amendment that you want to propose. It's not a done deal. They're going to vote on it, but they probably are going to vote to have it the way it is, or something similar to it, and then make some changes afterwards, rather than, oh, let's take all these amendments and work on it for another year. That's not what I'm hearing them say. Yeah, that's not, well, they could be saying that, but that's not what they're saying. They're saying it's a vote up or down, and then we'll adjust as needed. Larissa?
Yeah, so just one question that I have about the justice one.
Yeah.
It says we covenanted as anti-racism and all forms of systemic oppression. This is great.
Mhm.
One thing I wonder is why is racism the only one that's specifically called out?
Well, I think that's because the UUA has really committed itself to acknowledging the harm that we have caused as Unitarian Universalists within our own denomination, the challenges that we have faced, and that is the big issue of systemic oppression that we are facing in our country at this time.
Well, it's just, I mean, I would say sexism is a huge one in our country as well. Right now, what maybe seems church doesn't, you're seeing a lot of that in our own churches.
Well, the UUA, yeah, I mean, of course, this was written before the new anti-abortion laws have gone in. So everything is always changing and adjusting. But the UUA has very specifically committed very intensely on working on anti-racism.
It's because they want to focus on racism.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the big focus right now. Yeah, good question. Doesn't mean the others aren't important. But just looking around our congregation, you can see evidence for why we need this anti-racism work. Just saying. We're a pretty lily white congregation. We're a pretty lily white denomination. So we do have a lot of work to do.
Okay, can we move on?
Anything else?
Maybe I misunderstood. Are we adding a eighth principle or just?
No, they rewrote the whole thing instead of adding the eighth principle. That was the proposal, and that's why it's called the Eighth Principle Project. So yeah, it's a big focus. It's a challenge. Anything else? Good. All right.
The president?
Okay, so you're going to vote on both of those at once. Okay, and we have a new president coming up, and you can read about her on the other side of this. Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt. Let's see. I can tell you my own personal opinion about Sophia Betancourt is that she might just be the best president we've ever had in the UUA. And yeah, I know. And so going along with Larissa's comment, which was excellent point, she's a woman. We have a woman president right now who's been great, Susan Frederick Gray. But Sophia Betancourt, she's a professor, she's a minister, she's a person of color, but she's, aside from all of that, she's just brilliant in my opinion, and brings a lot of new vision. So maybe it's me having high hopes, I don't know, but I like her. And I just had a conversation with her a couple weeks ago and was even more impressed with how seriously she is taking this work. And the UUA, I feel, is at a crossroads. And Larissa, I think you kind of put your finger on it. How do we address anti-racism? Is it at the expense of everything else? Well, no, but we are naming that. How do we wrestle with all these directions? So I think Sophia Betancourt is an excellent person for helping with that. But I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, you can read about her, and we've been sending out links to read about her for a while. So, any questions about her? I mean, just because I like her doesn't mean you have to. So,
on the other hand, there are no other candidates.
There is that.
So, so I want to take this, unless there's something urgent, I want to call the vote. Mickey, something urgent and new?
I move that we separate the two votes.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, well, we can't, okay. The vote, this vote is for, does this congregation support and instruct our delegates to vote in favor of the revisions to Article II of the bylaws, the so-called principles that's the first vote. All those who can support them at this time, knowing that there may be further amendments down the line, but this vote's going to come up next month. All those folks who support the changes in general, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Zoom. Okay, we do have to move on, so I'm going to now ask anybody who's not in favor to signify by saying nay. Nay. Okay, what I heard was a preponderance of yays with a few nays, but the motion passes. Okay. On the second item, the same thing. How do we instruct our delegates to vote? Do we vote in support of Sophia Betancourt? All those in favor of supporting her and instructing our delegates that way, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, they're going to keep counting on Zoom while everybody, all thumbs up. Okay, any nays? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We do still have, I know it's 1 minute to 1, but we do have the budget, so I'm going to call Alan back up here, please, to talk about next year's budget.
And I just want to say, those of you that said nay for the changes to Article 2, if you have any amendments that you would like to submit, send them to me. Okay, thanks. I'll submit them for you.
Oh, and I would mention that Alan has worked really hard with the whole finance committee, including Dick Barton, Jeannie Miller, and Doug Stewart. Doug has been particularly involved in fine-tuning this final version as it comes to you. So Alan's asked if Doug is on standby to sort of help if you have any questions that may need to be explained. So thank you, Alan, once more.
Okay, as I noticed, the budget that's in your handout there is not the one that's being presented. The one that's being presented is the one eventually will be up on the screen. Oh.
The next slide.
No.
And keep going.
Nope, that's got many colors on it.
Keep going.
Where's the microphone?
There we go.
And that should be the one that's in the handout.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah.
Completely different.
Electronically, matching either one. Dana sent it out.
Technology.
Is it available online right now?
It's on Google Docs.
This is printed from the Google Docs. So this is what you sent me.
Nope. Yeah, I can tell because that one has like a negative $50,000 deficit.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Well, it's 23.
That's last year. Okay, so. And
Alan, would you like this screen up or the one before it?
the one before it. Is that, and the one before that. And, yep, there we go.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so budget has two parts to it. You got the revenue and you got the expenses. This year's total revenue was proposed for revenue was 191,000. And at the end of April, we're at 142,000. Next year, and then we have actually, we thought about two budgets for next year. And neither one are optimistic. The first one, we proposed income of 175,000, which meant 144,500 in pledges and 10,000 in other stuff and some other miscellaneous stuff. The alternate was the optimistic one, where we are going for fundraisers of more 20,000, and let's see what happens. And pledges stay the same, and we're hoping to get a revenue of $211,000. So that means that's definitely going to mean a more income commitment with its pledges, fund drives, auctions, and any other revenue source you can think of, whether it's concerts here, and then on the other side of the budget is the expenses. So you want to cut your expenses, and two areas, big area is going to be labor. Dana goes down to 80%, and basically we lose the bookkeeper, but we're going to a bookkeeping service, which will net us a gain in income.
Just scroll down maybe?
Yeah, let's go down to the next.
These are slides, so you can go to the next slide.
Next slide. That's labor. Basically save 15,000 on labor. And then after that, I think it's kind of COSM and LDC. That's kind of a fixed cost. So. And so, yeah, go to the next slide. We come up with the grand totals. So So on the alternate budget, we come up with a surplus of $308. And the first proposed budget, it's a deficit of 47,000. So, discussion.
I'm just totally confused.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, nothing, if this really doesn't reflect it, and I can't see that, I don't feel very confident to make any kind of comment. That's all.
So Alan, in the alternate budget, you, it looked to me like you anticipated an additional, I think it was $20,000 or $30,000 from auctions, et cetera, et cetera. Is that what it was?
That's, yep.
That's pie in the sky.
Yep. But then on the other hand, if we don't get that, we are still better off than with that first budget, where with the 47,000 deficit, if we don't get that $20,000 increase in income, we'll have a $20,000 deficit, which is better than 47,000.
Yeah. Say, Alan, if I may, I can't hear everybody who's speaking in the
I'm just not
sanctuary.
aware of where we are as far as COVID restrictions or anything as far as renting our buildings out again.
We have no restrictions at this point.
Okay, so that is a possibility.
This alternate budget, and that's what we're voting on, we're going to vote on, is the alternate budget. Now, it will require significant fundraising this year. We cut to the bone in terms of cutting expenses. So the only other alternative is to raise revenue. That's fundraisers. There's some ideas about it floating around. We will need to operationalize those, starting working on it this summer and implementing it by fall. Leonard?
Yeah. Oh, could I speak to Sally when you get a chance?
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Leonard, is that okay with you?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just the finance committee working with Alan and hearing from the board, kind of put together these high level thoughts. Working, as I say, working with Alan and the board. The bottom line was when we rolled everything up, like we would like it, kind of operating this year as we have been, we neared a $50,000 deficit, and that was the original proposal. Dana kindly thinks that by going to 80%, that'll help us, and I can let her. Yeah, so she's willing to do that for us. That in round numbers, that saves us about 20,000 of that 50, maybe not quite, but we weren't quite at 50. So that gets us down to a $30,000 deficit. And at the last board meeting, the board thought that we can probably challenge ourselves to either through increased pledges or one-time gifts, we can probably pick up 20,000 of that 30,000, and that we can try to come up with revenue streams for another 10,000. So I just wanted to present the very top level view. Dana's saving us about 20,000 of the nearly 50,000 deficit. And the board is saying the remaining 30,000, 20,000 would come from either increased pledges from us, kind of going back to the well, if you will, or one-time gifts, and then 10,000 from additional revenue streams to be determined.
Leonard?
Basically, I'd like to talk about, keep it kind of simple. Before the pandemic, we had 136 members. Members and pledge units. Pledge units are about 2/3 of that. meaning as a couple, you make a pledge, not individual normally, but anyway, before the pandemic, we had 136. Dana has mentioned $37 to walk in the door. Last year, our average pledge was $150 a month, which would be $37.50 each pledge unit each week. So if we take going from 136 down to 111, it's 25 pledge units at an average of $150 a month. That is $45,000. So we have a strong membership committee now, which, sad to say, we had kind of an absent one in the last couple of years. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I apologize for that. But if we can work hard on we get new people in the church quite frequently, but they don't stay. So if we can corral these people, and normally new people would make a low pledge. We had one new member pledge 6,000 last year. So new members, if we could get in 15 new members at almost 2,000 a year each, that's 30,000 right there. So I think our goal is to be more welcoming and corral them when they come in the door. Thank you.
Pass the mic, please, to Rebecca.
There's also, and neither Norma and I can remember the number, there are a number of members who do not pledge anything. So I think we have to, it's a two-pronged system here of new members and of people who are already members who don't contribute or support the church in any way. I mean, I'm talking zero, not sort of.
Steve?
In terms of, financial soundness, you earlier presented a big screen that we didn't get a good look at, or maybe I didn't understand, which is how much actual bank reserves do we have? I think you might have mentioned some numbers, but how much is in operational funds and how much is sitting there and a worst case scenario could be tapped, and how much does the board and how much does the board and the finance committee recommend not touching no matter what happens during the coming year, just so we kind of understand where we're really starting from.
Okay, so we've got, oops, no, that's not the right one.
Alan, would you like this slide up, the actual video?
No, let's see. If I go back to March, we've got let's see. 12,000 in the checking account and 14,000 in savings.
Say those numbers again, please.
12,000 and 14,000.
12,000 checking. Savings.
And about 100,000 in Glenda Bell's endowment. Glenda Bell left us an endowment, which is running at about 100,000 right now. So we'd rather not touch that because you go into that, and then you start losing the interest that it's not interest, it's dividends or whatever the stock market puts out. But I'd rather not take so much money out of her checking that we close the account.
Heard a call from the vote. Do we have other comments, questions that have not been raised to date? Sue?
Yeah,
No, it's for people on Zoom. It's for the people on Zoom.
Right. So this is so enlightening to me. And I don't know if the rest of our congregation has heard these numbers. And so when we all made our pledges, I know I did, I made a pledge of like what I'm comfortable with on my retirement budget, but $37 a shot coming in, and the average is $150 for all of our folks here. So for those of us like myself that have pledged less than that, how do we get that information out to the general congregation, and how do we increase our pledges at this point?
We will need a plan to implement this. We do not have a plan. We have an idea and a goal. We do not have the actual plan yet. If the congregation votes for this budget, it will be the responsibility of the board to come up with a plan that will involve everybody.
Okay. Yeah, this needs to be told to everyone.
Oh, they'll be told.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Oh, I bet you Leonard would be happy to take an increased pledge from you at any time, except 1 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, Fred, it's getting late. We're
a
already past, so.
Quick comment.
Fred,
I was liaison to the membership committee the last 3 years. There was a chairman and no members and a pandemic. So I don't think you can point fingers at that committee.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we need to focus on the budget right now. Any more questions, comments, concerns? I do need to call for a vote on this budget. It will be the adjusted budget that shows, yes, big fundraising is part of it for next year, but it's a balanced bottom line.
And we did that when we bought this building. We had a building fund drive, and a lot of people contributed. So,
that's right, and we used it to pay off our mortgage way in advance. So we've done it before, folks. And some of the fundraising ideas are fun. So it's not just a call.
Fundraising.
Steve?
One more question. I appreciate especially
the information on Glenda Bell's endowment was helpful, and certainly agree that we don't want to dip into that. Just to be clear, was the endowment restricted in any way, or is it unrestricted?
Actually, I don't know.
It's unrestricted.
Okay.
It's unrestricted. Other comments or questions? Okay, I heard a call to call the vote, so I'm going to call the vote now. All of those in favor of supporting the budget at the adjusted budget as presented, knowing that we're going to have to work harder, all of us, to actually make that, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
And while we wait for Zoom to come. The adjusted one.
Okay, does everybody have that online? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so.
The alternate, the yellow.
Okay, while they vote, anybody who in opposition to the yellow budget, signify by saying nay. No nays in the house. What's happening on Zoom? All thumbs up. So thank you. That is a unanimous vote, folks. And yes, we will tell everybody that this is going on. I applaud you. You've been here with us before. We did it to buy the building. We did it to pay off the mortgage. We've done it before. We can do it again. And Leonard's right. Everybody has to work. Membership has to bring them in. Finance committee's got to help do some of these fundraisers. It'll be fun. We'll need people. We're talking about concerts here in the sanctuary, among other things. So.
This meeting has set off the fire alarm in the other building. Evidently, we've got a smoke, or not smoke, but probably dust in our smoke detector here in the back.
Okay, all right, so all the more reason for me to ask, is there anything else that needs to come before this meeting before I adjourn it?
I move the meeting be adjourned.
Okay, well, we're gonna blow out the chalice. Okay, we will blow out the chalice and consider the meeting adjourned. Dana?
Actually, before we leave, I'd like to thank Tam for being our bookkeeper. She's done a hell of a good job.
And I want to thank Alan and his whole team for struggling with this. It's not been fun. It is hard, and it will continue to be hard. And it's not our fault. It's the pandemic, and we have to just live where we're living. Dana?
I want to point out about membership. Alice has done a fabulous job during the pandemic, and it's really hard to run a path to membership when you don't have a minister. So this is really
Thanks, Alan.
an impact of not having a minister, and it's important. You've had a triple whammy. You've had the pandemic, you've had a transition during the pandemic, and then you had all the issues with Foothills. So it's not surprising that you have to take a step or two back, okay? The numbers, I've been seeing this coming, and I've known that I probably need to have a backup plan, which I do have. So I'm the one who brought it up that you probably should have me go to 80%. I'm the one who proposed that, not because I want to, please understand. I want to be full-time, but you have 117 members right now, and coming out of a pandemic with everything else, you can't afford me at full-time. And I realized that, and I made it easier for the board by naming it and helping them wrestle with it, rather than really going through the torture of trying to figure out how to pay me full-time when you really can't afford it. Okay?
Thank you, Dana, yeah.
I just really wanted to say that.
And we want you back at full time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that will be our goal.
Thank you. So we'll talk more about how that looks in the future, but as hard as this is, the congregation is looking really good. Your attendance is back to pre-pandemic numbers. Your attendance it's up there. Yeah, you've got new people coming in all the time. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of good stuff happening. So the grass is getting greener all the time. So don't be too discouraged, okay, my friends? Please, you have something beautiful going on here. The chalice extinguished itself. But my friends, its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. So please carry that flame. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place and share it. Not because we need their money, but because you have a good message to share with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet. May it be so. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Go now in peace.